FIA Formula 2 makes its way to Great Britain. Welcome to the Silverstone circuit. Half in Northamptonshire, half in Buckinghamshire. It's always delivered such thrilling, interesting and confusing action in Formula 2's history. Welcome to round 8 of the 2025 campaign, and the opening practice session is underway. Well, the tension is rising here at Silverstone because everybody knows exactly what we could be in for. Good morning, everybody, and welcome. Here we go then, clouds slightly overcast. Today is scheduled to be the only dry day of the entire weekend. That is how Silverstone reacts. It could be very, very wet. Virtual safety car has been deployed in the test procedure. Richard Verschoor, 114 points. Alexander Dunn on 90. Crawford, 88. Fuller Early, 86. Browning, 83. Lindblad, 79. So many drivers are in the hunt for this year's F2 title. It is absolutely fantastic. And Austria, last time out, gave us a crash, bang, wallop style of a race. And here at Silverstone, we're expecting much the same as well, as Campos lead by 20 points to MP Motorsport, 146 to 126, High Tech on 114, Dams on 109, the same as Invicta, Ronin Motorsport 92, Prema 74, ART on 55, AIX 19, Van Amersfoort on 10, and Trident on 2 in the team standings as well. Richard Verschoor, though, leads the Drivers' Championship as they come back into the pit lane after their opening gambits. What a race 2 at Austria he had in the feature race as well. Verschoor proving once again why he is the master of this F2 campaign. Well, they're back into the pit lane then. Let's check in with our World Feed commentary team, Chris McCarthy and Alex Brundle.
To get their eye in where they're stopping in the box and attacking that, making sure they gain as much time as possible. As we see Jack Crawford here, third in the championships at the moment. Only 2 points behind second place is Dunn, who's actually 24 points off now. The leader for sure starting to make good his escape.
Yeah, Jack Crawford actually picked up a penalty here last year for an unsafe release into an AIX driver, so got to be careful of that, and that did prevent him from getting on the podium. So Jack Crawford knows how to go well around here. Let's pick up though on that disqualification for Alex Dunn. People would have seen that coming in post-race. It prevented him from getting a podium and has caused a gap now at the top. Joe, just go into a little bit of detail for us on that one.
Yeah, so the plank, the wooden element that sits underneath these cars to stop them riding too low, had worn too thin. It has to be 4 millimeters in 2 measurement areas out of 3, and it failed that. The team's always looking for performance, and the lower a race car goes, the quicker it can go. It generates more downforce, so they must have just had it too low. It's bottoming out. Maybe a curb strike on the exit of 1 or 3 at Red Bull Ring is very hard on these cars, so absolutely gutting for Dunn there. And of course, it always looks bad when you get disqualified. The driver will plead their innocence. They're just merely the driver, and there would have been a performance gain there, and that would be in the back of his mind. Was I only quick because of that, or is it something else?
Precisely, and that means this is the driver they now will have to chase. Richard Verschoor returning to the track where he took his first win in Formula 2 back in 2021, and did that with MP Motorsport. So Richard Verschoor winning the Sprint Race 2 here in 2021 with MP Motorsport when he was beginning his journey in this championship. Can he go and now take what would be a record equaling 8th win this weekend and continue to extend his lead? Things are going to change though this weekend, Joe. It's we've had very much a tight fight in this Formula 2 championship. For the first time, we now have a gap, and that's going to change mentally for Richard Verschoor. For the first time, he's now the one being chased.
Yeah, he's just got to keep hitting his marks, doing exactly what he does, corner after corner, which leads into lap after lap, which leads into race after race, which leads into championship. So that's what he'll be fully focused on as we look at Montoya just crossing the line, going for another quick lap there, just getting these tyres up to pressure, up to temperature. See the front brake disc glowing there. He'll be riding the brake and the throttle at the same point to really generate that temperature, and that's a huge benefit to these drivers. Track temp already getting hot. It's at 28 degrees, but it is looking dirty, especially in sector 3 where drivers are cutting the inside of Vale. There used to be a sausage curve there. The FIE have got rid of that. It's allowing the drivers to really cut the corner there, as we can see Mini there in the Premier car, obviously carrying the Alpine colours, still working the tyre left to right. And he's coming into this weekend, isn't he, after a relatively disappointing start to his season.
Yep, 2 conflicting seasons for 2 teammates there. Sebastian Montoya, P8 in the championship, and a driver really hitting some form in recent rounds, hitting confidence, hitting the podiums as well, and continuing his momentum at Red Bull Ring. Gabriele Mini, well, everyone expected him to be fighting for this championship. He's fought for the FRECA title, he's fought for the Formula 3 title, and everyone expected him to be fighting for the Formula 2 title. Not too it seems like he has almost lost his confidence a little bit within that car. Joe, you know, as a former driver yourself and someone who's worked with many drivers, do you think it's just a thing for Gabriele Mini now that he needs to get his break? Because going out in that first session at Australia, he was fastest in the session before he took a grid penalty. Just seems that sort of confidence he showed in that session is gone.
Yeah, and it's hard as a driver because the step from F3 to F2 is 5-6 seconds a lap, so it's a fair chunk quicker, but the physicality is huge. And if you're not quite there on the top of your game, that's what starts to hurt you. And if you're thinking about anything but driving fast, then it is very difficult to be near the top end of the most competitive championship outside of F1.
I have to say, Gabriele Mini, fans will probably agree with me of his. He's been quite unfortunate on several occasions this year, so needs a break really, and his fans, I'm sure, and his team will be hoping that comes to him this weekend, because he's someone who has the potential to fight for wins in this championship. He's demonstrated that on many occasions. Well, Joe, you know this Silverstone track very well. Why don't you talk us through the first few corners as we start to turn laps now, and what the challenges are of this circuit?
Yeah, as we're looking at Montoya here, coming through the loop into Linktree now, turn 5, DRS open already, the first DRS zone of this lap. There's another one on the Hanger Straight, flying down the Wellington Straight into Brooklands here. Of course, we're going to be purple with the first one pushing as we see those iconic colours of his crash helmet. Through Luffield now, veering the corner off nicely, hard on the throttle, potentially short shifting to third there to stop any wheel spin. Through the easy flat, Woodcote is blind, but easy flat into Copse. Again, we're listening on the throttle here. Let's listen in how much we're lifting. There's a big full lift off the throttle there. We've got a side wind at the moment. The drivers, as they get their eye, and I think we'll again start to bend the throttle through Mags and Beckett's. The best sequence of corners in the world, but if you make one mistake, the next corner's and we had a bit too much curve, I think, on the left, and that made the car snap of oversteer as the DRS pop opens once more down the Hanger Straight into Stowe, braking at the 50-metre board, 6th down to 4th gear here, late apex. The car runs out of grip as the camber falls away on exit. Careful of track limits, last break of the lap into Vale, hard on the brakes, don't lock up the inside left. This is where it's been getting dirty, clean at the moment, through the last part of Club. Careful of track limits in the middle and the exit now. The line comes up quickly and it's a 43.1. I think we need to be in the mid-40s in this session to be fastest.
Wow, big moment. Well, you know, if you're coming to Silverstone for the first time, you want somewhere to go and watch. Maggots and Beckett's is the best place to go. What a moment for Montoya, but what a save as well. John Bennett, this is the first track he actually knows this season. so he'll be excited for this weekend, but a lock-up there for John Bennett.
Yeah, another lock-up as well there for the number 4 car, wasn't it, of Lindblad, and easily done there. These drivers getting their eye in, but also just making sure their brake pass is right as we go on board with Martins here. A lot smoother than Montoya through that part, and Max and Beckett's. We're quick at the moment, purple sector 1, so this is good. Just checking his mirrors, making sure he's clear. This is good. Sector 2 as well. You just see a puff of smoke there as he smashes the brakes so hard. The car's nearly putting 4G under braking, so the brake pressure from these drivers phenomenally high, and that's why they're in the gym 7 days of the week, threading it through club. Maybe turned in slightly early there, and that's why he was washing wide. They'll be pushing to the line. The car full of fuel, new tyres, goes up to second, 10th and a half off.
Victor Martin, second, won here in 2023 for ART Grand Prix from pole position. The last 3 feature races have been won from pole, so it can carry a relevance. 5 of the 9 races have been won from pole. This will be the 10th feature race when we go on Sunday. Format for Formula 2, we have a sprint race and a feature race. We reverse the top 10 when we go qualifying later. That result will be reversed, the top 10 for the sprint race tomorrow. Then we have our feature race where both the hard tyre, the white sidewall, and the red wall soft tyre have to be used. Pit stops can be complete at the end of lap 6, and drivers have to use both sets of tyres. So that will be another element of the race, and we saw 12 drivers start on the hard compound tyre, this tyre, last year. So set to be a great race, and we will see how it all plays out. It's always a cracking race around here, and one where the weather could play a part as well. Well, Alex Dunn, we talked about Arvid Lindblad and his FP1 outing later. Alex Dunn was out in FP1 himself just a few days ago for McLaren. Let's hear what he had to say about it coming into the weekend.
I wasn't sad at all after when I found out that I was getting disqualified. You know, I even said to the team, you know, these things happen. You know, as a team and as drivers, we're always pushing the limits, and these things are bound to happen at some point. You know, I think realistically, the penalty we got, there's no actual performance advantage. It's just pushing the limit of what you're allowed to do with the car. And you know, I said as soon as I found out, I wasn't disappointed at all. You know, I was very happy with the race. It was a really enjoyable one. The pace was good. With the pit stop, everything as a team, we performed really well. So I was really happy leaving the weekend. You know, I had my first outing in FP1, which was strong, and then we had a strong feature race. So I think some small little thing that happens kind of out of my control, and something that I won't blame the team for because they're always pushing the limits. You know, I don't think there's a reason to let that get me down.
Well, we spoke about the disqualification for Alex Dunn a little earlier in the session, and hearing his thoughts there on it. He mentioned how he just has to try and bounce back from it when something like that happens. Joe, I'm sure you've experienced it yourself. I think showing the maturity there, that he just has to try and bounce back and move on. He recognises it wasn't done from an incident that happened on track, so just has to try and move on.
Done and dusted, isn't it? And,
yes.
Very mature interview there, but let me tell you, he would have been raging internally. If he hasn't let that slip, then that's amazing, and the team will rally around him. But that was particularly galling for him, and that would be hard. As he on his first push-up, 7 tenths down to Montoya's sector 1 already. The rear of the car looking loose a couple of times already, so maybe the rear tyres not matched, and he'll be deciding, do I do a full push? Do I take some life out of these tyres, or do I continue at a moderate pace to maybe go for another push-up after this one?
Yeah, another practice session where we're going to see lots of laps turned, I think. Track limits could be a factor. This one here, Copse Corner, this is where we see the drivers really push, and when we speak to the drivers, that's a corner they all love, and they'll almost be trying to find the limits through there in this session.
Yep, they'll be seeing where the rules are set. Is it 1 inch over, or is it 2 inches over?
As Luke Browning gets pinked, he's our first victim of that.
We saw it in the F3 session previously, didn't we? And these drivers would have been watching that F3 session to get some intel, as well as Dunn coming into Stowe late on the brakes there. Really nice rotation from the front of that car. Looking balanced now compared to the start of the lap, and that's what we're talking about, getting the tyres prepped. They might not be ready at the start of the lap, but they might be perfect by the end, and the average might work out to be a good lap. But remember, he was 7 tenths off in Sector 1, 1.2 with a Sector 3 purple. So those tyres obviously coming good at the end of the lap.
Yeah, he's got pace in that road in. Victor Martins has gone fastest, 1:42.393, just 700ths of a second ahead. Let's jump on board with Montoya into Copse. It's going to be this big save, I think. Oh, maybe just a bit of a wide. So I think that a demonstration of how much you can push.
You can see the car taking a pounding there, and again, that's wearing the plank out, and that's what Cross done at Austria. So the teams and drivers will be having to factor this in to their run plan. How much of the plank are they losing on the exit curbs? Especially Copse seems to be a hotspot for that.
Well, Montoya only 700ths back from Victor Martins, who's fastest. One of two drivers to have won around here currently out there. He, for sure, that he the only one who can say he has a pole position out there on the grid. We'll try and use that to his advantage. How is it as a driver when you come to a circuit, you're comfortable with, you know, you've won round here, you've got a pole round here. He's got to use that to his advantage because he's been unfortunate this season. So definitely has to try and use that to his advantage this weekend, doesn't he? We'll pick up more on Victor Martins and the season, but one of the big stories coming into this weekend is Arvid Lindblad, and the home crowd are going to be very excited when they see him go out for FP1 a little bit later for Red Bull. Let's hear what Arvid had to say about that news.
Obviously, racing at home in Silverstone is very special, and then to top it off, to get my first FP1 outing with Red Bull is going to be a very special moment. It is going to be a challenge. Obviously, it's not ideal going into quali with the last thing you drove being, I think around here it's like 13 seconds quicker or something. So yeah, it is a challenge. It will be difficult, but I think that's what makes it exciting as well, and it's an opportunity.
It really is. I mean, we look back to last year, Joe, he took the double win in Formula 3 and was the first British driver to win at that level since George Russell. George Russell then that year went to win the GP3 title and was out in a Formula 1 car later that year, and Arvid Lindblad on a similar pathway fought for that Formula 3 title, and just a year on, he's now out in FP1. It's incredible that only 3 years ago he was still in karting. It was September 2022 that he made his debut in a Formula 4 car against the likes of Kimi Antonelli and Alex Dunn. It's incredible, isn't it?
Yeah, cream always rises, but his cream is rising very quickly, isn't he? The 17-year-old, born in Virginia Waters, Surrey. But what a year. F3 winner, F2 racing this weekend, then F1 test with Red Bull, the car to maybe have here at Silverstone this weekend. We'll find out about that. But so important these F1 teams support the talent coming through, because these are the next drivers, the next champions. We've seen how important it is as we look at a very quick lap here from Megatufin. It's going to be right on the money of Crawford's 42.3 as it crosses the line. Oh, half a tenth under. It's close, isn't it?
Yeah, quick laps coming in. 42.3 for Crawford. Megatufin second. Kushmini in.
Yeah, Kushmani there. We've got a yellow flag though, because off the track and into the gravel has gone Rafael Villagomez. This might and does bring out the red flags. Villagomez is stuck in the gravel. Now, it's not really a deep gravel trap here at Silverstone. He should be able to get out and back out. It's on the entry into the Vale chicane, but he's lost the engine. So the red flag has come out and suspended the F2 free practice session. Well, that's a shame, but not to be unexpected, to be fair. Megatufin on top, 142.369, just as we start to get the times up and running, and Villagomez out of the order. Must have just spun it and come into the gravel trap. Quite easily done, though, to be fair. We've seen that several times over the past few years. So red flags out.
Later, as we will find out exactly what happened. Here's Rafa.
Yeah, let's take a look then at what happened. So it's down in towards the chicane. Rear just locks up. That's a really strange one. The rear just locks it on entry.
And that's why we were so much further into the gravel trap than a usual issue there. But yeah, the front is the axle you expect to lock there. So either bias too far rearward, something the driver can change, how much of the brake pressure. Great camera shot there to get the full Tokyo Drift reverse entry. Unfortunately, not the optimal line for an F2 car, flame out the back, and then the gravel trap doing its job. So either a bias issue or a mechanical issue, something potentially failing the braking system, the rear differential there can lock as Villagomez trudges through that vast gravel trap at Vale.
Villagomez walking away from the car, back into pit lane, spin coming down into club corner, and he'll walk away.
Did you hear the engineer there talking about brake balance? So
yeah.
They're at a loss as well. They're thinking maybe it is that brake bias that needs an adjustment.
Is that a track like Silverstone? Is it a circuit you change that a lot? I mean, it's a fairly flat circuit, but one way we see lots of high-speed corners, then we've got the heavy braking zones, like coming in towards Club and then into Village. So is it a track where you would make lots of adjustments?
It's all driver specific. Some will not touch it, some will just go, that's optimal, and some will want a different balance for a hard stop like Vale, or a soft brake, for example, into the last part of Maggotts and Beckett. So you will see a variance there. And sometimes the problem with the variance is that you might forget to go back the other way.
Yeah.
So potentially we've gone rearwards for the high speed and not gone frontwards for the big stop there at Vale.
Well, Luke Browning yesterday was out in front of the home crowd kicking a rugby ball, kicked it further than all of the F1 drivers. So got the home crowd behind him, and we spoke to him about that home crowd support coming in to the weekend.
I'm excited. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. I can smell the fish and chips from here. So yeah, it's nice to be home. Slept in my own bed last night, and I will be for the whole weekend, which is nice. Yeah, I love this place, but obviously it's just like any other round. Got to keep my head down and focus on the results.
So Luke Browning took pole position here in Formula 3 last year. Has never won at this circuit though, and he mentioned that to us in the Instagram Live interview on Thursday. So it's something I think a weight he wants off his shoulders, but he certainly loves this. And that would have been a nice thing for him yesterday. Louis Sharp, Thomas Behrman going out front of the home crowd, really getting that taste of the support he's going to have behind him. And Luke Browning, a home win for him would be so special. Not only for how special it would be to win in front of a home crowd, but championship-wise as well. He 5th in the championship, and it would just bring him right back towards Richard Bishop.
Yeah, as we look at Megatune, fastest at the moment, fastest in Sector 1 out of anyone for the Trident team. Doing a front adjustment, I'd imagine, into the damping there, just to give it some slight different characteristics. You can basically change how much the car dives, how long it stays down for, even the curb strikes. If the front damping is too stiff, it comes all the way through the suspension. So potentially there, just looking to make a change. The tyres obviously dropped off now, so maybe they're just looking to soften the car off as you look at those big crowds you're talking about, the home support flooding in here. And obviously holding the first ever F1 race in 1950, like you said, 75 years ago. And this sport just continues to grow, doesn't it? We've seen Drive to Survive, we've seen F1 the movie now, and that's why we're going to have 500,000 people through the gates over the weekend here at this tiny Northamptonshire village.
It's absolutely fantastic, isn't it? And Silverstone, a big part of that F1 the movie film, and it was great to see. And the crowd here absolutely love to get in. One thing they do love, I think, when we come to this track in particular, is the support races. They love getting in to support their home drivers, and I'm sure they'll be in big numbers, especially when we go green for that Grand Prix feature race Sunday, 11:05. And Alex Dunn will be one of them, the Irishman. There'll be plenty of Irish fans in cheering for him. He's getting so much support behind him. Luke Browning as well will have a lot of support, and Arvid Lindblad. But they love to get in and cheer on the supporting drivers, because they know these are the drivers that are going to be in Formula 1. Last year, we had Kimi Antonelli win the sprint race. We had Isaac Hadjar win the feature race, and you look back through the results from the last years. Logan Sargent won the feature race here in 2022. Jack Doohan won the sprint race. So they know they're watching the stars of the future, and that's why they don't just get excited about their home drivers, but all the drivers.
Yeah, especially in these lower leagues outside of F1, the combat these drivers have on one another, and then the chaos that ensues. It is just all the way down the field. You don't know where to look. 25 F2 cars firing into turn 3 will be the flashpoint,
yes.
the pinch point at 4, and then that continues over the 2 races, of course. 120 kilometers for the sprint, 170 kilometer race for the feature. So you don't know where to look when you're sat here in the crowd.
No, you really don't. One driver who was very quick round here last season in particular was Jack Crawford. He's only 26 points back from the championship lead. It's going well for the American and the Aston Martin Junior, and we spoke to him about his 2025 season coming in for the weekend.
It's been a nice run of consistent results. You know, every time I've finished the race since, you know, Jeddah really has been in top 5, top 6 area, which is, you know, always good points, and that's the consistency you need really. And you know, had some wins along the way, of course, and I think obviously got, you know, saved myself a bit last weekend, you know, coming from 14th to finish 3rd. You know, that really helped me out a lot, because it could have been quite a bad weekend for the championship if I had, you know, a non-score or you know, low in the top 10. So yeah, good recovery then to get those points back. But you know, F2 is all about being consistent, and that's what I'm doing at the moment.
Jack Crawford, Aston Martin junior driver. Of course, Aston Martin based here at Silverstone, so would be a great result for him if he can go and take a win here this weekend for Aston Martin, and for himself in the championship. He's right up there in contention. 3rd place. Leo Fornaroli took his first pole position in Formula 3 here 2 years ago, beating off some stiff competition, so he knows how to go well round here. A driver who has taken 2 pole positions now this season. Hugely consistent, but hasn't quite been able to get that win just yet. Just doesn't quite seem to go well for him in the races, but someone who is always very consistent, Joe, and that's a very hard part for a driver in a season, isn't it? It's turning up and getting the points and the podiums all the time is a key part to a championship battle.
Massively so, and you just watch him. He's got the pure pace, hasn't he? And he's a doer, and I mean that as a racing driver. You can just see there's a move, he gets it done, and he acts while the iron is hot. And nice guy out the car as well, so he's the full package. It's just waiting for it to all align underneath it.
When he does take a win, and I say when, it's going to be a very popular win around the paddock. Fauna is very liked, and amongst the Formula 1 drivers as well. But this is very impressive. Trident leading the way in this session. They sit at the foot of the team's championship, Trident. So Sami Megatunov has scored their only 2 points so far. But both he and Max Esterson graduating from Formula 3. Sami Megatunov in the top 10 in Formula 3 last year, jumping up into that championship, leading the way for Trident. And you know, they are a hugely competitive team in Formula 3, leading the way in that, but climbing the ranks, or trying to, in Formula 2. And so far, Sami Megatunov, who did well here last year, he qualified 3rd in Formula 3 here last year, showing good pace.
Yeah, really good pace they tried to. We've got 9 different teams inside the top 10 as well, so really split there, which is amazing to see as we go back to green flag. That red flag lost us a lot of track time, only 16 minutes remaining. Drivers have either, the maximum we've got is 8 laps out there, so this has really hurt drivers that have not been in an F2 car around Silverstone before, losing the majority of their session there. As you can see, hard tyres on all these cars at the moment.
This is someone who needs a good result this weekend. Dino Beganovic in the F1 car last weekend, but hasn't quite been able to find a good result in the last couple of rounds. He could really do with getting something under his belt this weekend, just to get the momentum back on his side. He did climb 12 places in that feature race along with his teammate last weekend, and that might just help his confidence turn back in the right direction. He stood on the podium this season, and the famous climb uphill out of this pit lane and onto the track. It must feel so good coming out that pit lane.
Special every time. And the interesting bit in the race, because it's a blind exit, because you're coming up the hill, you can't see the cars that are on track to the last minute. Of course, there's the white line you can't cross to stop any instant side to side, but you literally have no idea where you're going to be. The apprehension is huge there.
Well, that's a factor, isn't it? Because going into then turn 3, we could see good side-by-side racing into there. So Silverstone, it is a part of it. Cold tyres, it's going to be great racing straight out of the pit lane. We love Silverstone, and another driver who does is Arvid Lindblad, and we spoke to him about the circuit coming into this weekend.
For me, I mean, it's obviously even more special just because of the nature of it being home. That makes it even more special. But then, yeah, the circuit itself, incredibly high speed, which makes it exciting, and it's got a big variety of corners, which is a real challenge for us drivers, which is what makes it fun. And also then the fans as well. It's an amazing atmosphere here this weekend, so really looking forward to it.
He talked about a variety of corners. Luke Browning was telling us that he was doing Silverstone on the sim with Gabriel Bortoletto, our reigning champion, coming into the weekend, who joined us on the live chat. But Arvid Lindblad talking about how he loves the variety of corners around here, and that will create such a good challenge for the Formula 2 drivers.
Yeah, and the personal challenge for him was jumping between a Formula 1 car and a Formula 2 car.
Yeah, that is.
During the same weekend, over 10 seconds of that time difference. So he'll have to re-engage his brain both ways to get on that. And the best way to do that, to allow you to experience that. The virtual reality now is just so good. These drivers, their brains are tricked into thinking it's real, which really is a huge helpful tool before a race weekend.
We saw that had an effect on Alex Dunn last week. He actually came out and said he couldn't quite adapt to just the braking going back to the Formula 2 car, just the speed differential and how much quicker the Formula 1 car slows down. So it'll be interesting to see if there is an effect on Arvid Lindblad, and it's also the amount that you have to do off the circuit as well. It's extra team briefings, extra team debriefings, so it will be a busy old day for him.
Just the buttons you have to learn is more than difficult enough these days in a modern F1 car. But yeah, the drivers have also got some tools to be able to do it. Sims one, onboard video data, as well as all the driver coaching performance. As we look at Alex Dunn here, 13th at the moment. You can see where he's losing the time is in Sector 1 and 2. Sector 3, he was phenomenally fast, faster than anyone. And this is our problem area. We had too much rotation when we watched his lap earlier. Car looking good at the moment. There's that over rotation. As he went to turn into the loop, the rear of the car was politely saying no, and he couldn't commit any left hand down, and that's why he missed the apex ever so slightly. Sector finishing now. How are we doing now? It's green at the moment, who's a little bit quicker than he was earlier, but still a chunk off through Luffield, V'ing the corner off. It looks like he runs wide, but it's intentional there to open up the exit. Car squirreling on throttle there, 620 horsepower coming from this turbocharged V6 into Copse Corner now. The cars dart across our screen as they're pulling nearly 4G of lateral load through there. Looking good on track limits on the exit into Magnussen Buckets. Browning now has gone fastest.
Yeah, Luke Browning fastest out front, 1:42.324, but we're watching Alex Dunn. Let's see what he does through the second sector. This has looked a clean lap through the split, and it's looking very good down to Stoke Corner.
And this is his sector, Sector 3. We're in. He was the fastest out of anyone. So this could be a lap for Dunn to put him somewhere near the sharp end, if not the sharpest point of the grid. Keeps it legal on the exit of Stowe. One more break. Don't break too late. Don't break too early. There's the thoughts of a racing driver on a lap, and the rear snaps out. I think he's managed that pretty well, and maybe a tenth or so loss, but this is still a very strong lap.
Over the line, 6 thousandths of a second, and that was the difference. That slide coming through club corner. That was the difference for Alex Dunn. That would have put him fastest, but now it's an ART driver fastest in Victor Martins.
Yeah, just behind us on the track. Martins coming through P1, and I wonder if that's the dirt getting brought onto the track there at Vale that caused the slide for Dunn, because it was very late on. He's wide off the apex for a rolling speed. Look, he gets on the dirt, kicks it up, rally style, 180 degrees of opposite lock. His focus doesn't change. The mistake is now done because he hooks up the second apex of club perfectly, and he mitigated the time loss as well as he could from a small mistake, as we see Esselstyn running in very, very deep there at Brooklands, getting a lot of marbles on the tyres, and now he's got to try and clean those tyres up.
Yeah, that slide through Vale costing Alex Dunn just a few thousandths of a second, but 13 thousandths the difference between Martins, Browning and Dunn. It's very close, and we have less than a tenth of a second between the top 7. It is very close between Martins, Browning, Dunn, Megatunic, Stanek, Miney and Verschoor. Hugely close. That's going to be a good qualifying session later if it stays like this as we go back on board with Alex Dunn. And that's, I mean, he knows the braking zone now into there. And that, do you reckon it was just a little bit too late on the brakes into there, or a bit of impatience on the throttle through there?
Yeah, mixture of two. Maybe even got greedy on the release. You can see him drumming away on the top of the wheel, trying to relax himself back into a rhythm, as we see Luke Browning now down to second place behind Marty. So he's still pushing. He thinks he can find the time. He's very, very strong in sector 1. And at the moment, he's on a very good lap in this Williams liveried car.
Down towards the Wellington straight into Brooklands we go for Luke Browning, and he's up purple on this first sector. This will be good for the home fans who are filling the grandstands already on this Friday. Through left field we go now. It's a good first sector for Browning, who will want a good start as he comes through Woodcote now, and it's the run to Copse Corner as we ride on board, Joe.
Yeah, it's listening on the throttle on the Copse. Still a full lift to get the car in. As soon as they know the front's in, they're picking that throttle up hard, keeping the speed way above 230 kilometers an hour through Max and Beckett's. All of the curb you can possibly use, but if you use an inch too much, the car can bottom out. He's set this up perfectly for the last part. He can now get on the throttle. Look at him working the wheel. He was catching the slide as early as he could. This is a mega lap so far from Browning. And
Kush Miney is going very, very quickly as well, so watch for Kush in 7th place. His teammate has just gone second. Montoya has gone fastest. We ride on board with Luke Browning now down to Vale.
Rear tyres screaming, no more, no more. We just need one more corner out of these hard Pirellis. Hooks up the apex perfectly that Dunn missed on his lap, keeping it legal. It looks slightly conservative in sector 3, but I still think it's going to be a strong lap. P1.
2.5 tenths clear for Luke Browning. Out front, Ollie Goethe goes P3, and Luke Browning almost half a second clear from Kush Miney, who did do a PB lap. 5th place for him. High-Tech TGR, who are based here at Silverstone. Very much a home race for them, go fastest. Let's watch Alex Dunn into the loop.
Wow, huge lock-up.
Oh.
Bottoms out the car as well. That wouldn't have done the plank very good. That was illegal there. Look at that.
Yeah,
the tyre is absolute. 2 big flat spots, slight bit of gravel. That couldn't have gone worse. And the worst part of that is into lap 3. Is that going to hurt his weekend? 5 sets of tyres, 3 sets of hards. They're definitely done as well. A lot of curb there. We rarely see anyone get on top of the apex curve there. You can see why, because the car bottomed out. Another car bottoming out here. Lindblad on the exit of Copse Corner, car bouncing away. The slow-mo shoving the energy all the way through the car.
And this is Victor Martins, now 2nd place, and he is only 0.05 of a second back. We have very close runs at the front here. I think we're going to see one more go at this at least from the drivers, but we are left with Luke Browning leading from Victor Martins in this practice session. Montoya has actually come in to pit lane. Ollie Goethe is 4th, Jack Crawford 5th, Kush Miney P6, then it's Alex Dunn, Sammy Megatunic, Roman Stanek, Richard Verschoor, the championship leader, down in P10. So he is the leading MP and quite comfortably ahead of his teammates so far.
Yeah, mega session so far for Goethe. We've seen him do so well coming through the ranks, and he'll look to get that form going in F2. It hasn't quite happened yet, has it? But Red Bull have noticed his talent and what he can do. And at the moment, this is a great start to his weekend, managed by Stuart Hall, who's been all the way to the top of motorsport. And that's what these young drivers need, is that experienced head alongside them. It isn't just telling them where to brake. It's every day what to have for breakfast, what to do in the gym. If they're having a bad day, how to pick him up. And he's picking the throttle up hard at the start of this push lap.
Yeah, he won the feature race in Formula 3 here in 2023. So has winning experience as we start another flying lap with him. He'll be pushing to close the gap to Luke Browning.
Track temp starting to creep up now, so the track will be getting slower as it gets hotter, but the car's burning off their fuel now. They'll be at their lightest at the end of this session, of course. Looking good so far for Goethe. The team would have told him where he needs to find some time, which sector, which corner, just to heighten his focus as he comes through sector 1 now. How's it looking compared to Browning? 2.5 tenths off. It's not bad, but when you think his total time loss at the moment is only 4 tenths, that's quite a lot of loss in one sector.
Yes, it is, and Ollie Goethe now making his way round towards Woodcote into the National Straight, and we'll come down to Copse Corner, the biggest challenge on the circuit, where we're seeing track limit deletion, so he just has to be careful. That looked legal, or did it? He went just over 4 wheels there, but we'll continue on through Maggots and Beckett's. This is where we're going to see the car and driver combination pushed to their absolute limit.
Car working away, and you see those tiny fractions of oversteer. The driver has to feel it so quickly through their seat, through every element of their nervous system, effectively, to catch that slide before it gets too big and too late to catch.
Through Stowe now, Ollie Goethe. This the braking zone that caught Rafael Villagomez out earlier in the session. Took a spin down to the left-hander at Vel into club now. Double right-hander to end us off. We can see a slide there from Ollie Goethe. Tricky traction zone, that one, but a very important one. It can set up overtakes into a flat-out turn 1 here. And Ollie Goethe does another lap as Roman Stanek runs up. This was Copse Corner and pushing the limits.
Yeah, groove on the track limit's hard to call. I think slightly illegal.
Yeah.
Looked like it was staying on, and as it hit the of the curb, you obviously lose contact patch, and that's what forced him out wide. And look at that car going left to right, front left tyre fully in the air as well. That curb doing a very good job of dissuading drivers of using it. Here we see Alex Dunn. You can see the lockup mark already on the front right from that previous issue, and we have found that spot again. As soon as you get one flat spot, the tyre doesn't like to rotate as easily, so it just locks up in the same point, and he's looking like the red arrow is more than a fast F2 car.
Yeah, down to Village. He's big lock up there for Alex Dunn, and straight wide. But we've seen him get that lock up and repeating it. Is that when you've had a big lock up like that as a driver, mentally, is it on your mind next time you go down to the braking zone?
Massively. It's the only thing you can think about. You're hyper-focused on not doing it again. And what do? You do it again.
Exactly.
What do you think about? Locking up, and various cycle of negativity ensues. Montoya looking good so far at the end of the session. 2 minutes to go. Traffic getting out of his way nicely as we break the beam for the first sector. How's it looking for Montoya? It's very good. It's his personal best 300ths off ultimate fastest in sector 1.
This is looking good for Sebastian Montoya. Working the wheel now, we can see. Let's watch the traction coming out of the corner. It's looking good for Sebastian Montoya. The ultimate test as he heads down towards Copse. Keep it 4 wheels on. He's catching a little bit of traffic. This gives us the off-board view, and that looked good as he goes up to Maggots and Beckett's.
Yeah, millimetre perfect, not inch perfect. He absolutely nailed it there as he comes through Maggots and Beckett's. You can see the slight gradient changes. You actually lose sight of the car, and then they come back into view. Big slide as he comes onto the straight, just about keeps it legal and wouldn't have scrubbed too much speed. Still within a tenth of Luke Browning. It's all to play for in sector 3.
And he picked up a tow from Amaury Cordial, braking zone into Stowe. And that looked absolutely pinned and just about on, and he'll pick up another tow from a Van Amersfoort.
This is working out really nicely. Car sliding under the braking from the rear axle, but not too heavy. As you see, Crawford's on a purple sector 1 as well on the graphic. Pushes to the line. What can he do?
And he will stay in 4th place, but reduce the gap Jack Crawford now going quickly. Needs to find 1.5 tenths as we pick up the onboard down towards Cops Court.
Completely clear track in front into Cops, like you said, gets it to the apex nice. A little bit more understeer than we've seen from other cars. So the rear compliant, but the front, really the balance issue there for Crawford. An easier car to drive, potentially having understeer. But it feels like you're getting a pair of shackles put around your ankles sometimes as a driver. Understeer, not easy to drive around.
It is, nearly 3 tenths up here for Jack Crawford. Richard Verschoor will want to be higher than 10th and closer to towards his more inexperienced teammates. But we watch the American, Jack Crawford, coming down towards the final section here, into the downhill braking zone at Vale, into the left-hander. A bit of a lock-up there. Will that hurt him now into the right-hander at Club? Let's have a look.
Massively.
Yeah. Let's see what that does in terms of the times. Yes, there we go.
4 tenths loss. You can see how angry he is. And he should be. A slight lock-up made him run in deep onto that dirt that we saw done. Affected his for sure. Coming to the line, what can he do about Browning's 41.7? Nearly half a second off. But that was a lap for Crawford that I thought was going to be there. And he needs that kind of dominance ahead of qualifying to really cement how much pace he's got.
That's going to be on his mind now for the next few hours, isn't it? And he'll know. He'll look at the practice result and go, I should have been at the top of that result. Is there anyone else improving? Joshua Dirksen appears to be improving. I'm not sure if he's going to make a significant improvement. Victor Martins also improving. Let's see if he can shoot up the order. Dirksen, 14th place, did do a PB lap. And let's watch Martins now.
This is the hard area, isn't it? The braking here, slightly downhill, so the locking we expect. But then if you miss the apex, the double jeopardy is you run on the dirt. We do not run on the dirt that time, so we're able to get good traction all the way to the line as he breaks the beam. P1, what a lap.
There we go. And Victor Martins goes fastest, our 2023 pole sitter. But will he be beaten? Here comes the Irishman, Alex Dunn.
We saw a mistake earlier here by running in deep. Gets the first apex. You can see the dirt, so we're still in wider than Martins. Martins was fully on the clean track. He's going to push the line, 41.699 to beat. He does not, loses a lot of time again in Sector 3.
Well, Alex Dunn, who is second in the championship, P11 in that session. Let's have a watch of Luke Browning. Into Cops. Is there going to be a big slide? No.
Just that snap in the middle, and the opposite lock forces you to go left, which then makes you run wide. And that's what I really liked about Crawford's car. It didn't have that snappy tendency from the rear of the car. The front was the issue, but like I said at the time, much easier for the drivers there. And again, this is Crawford. This was the mistake, locking up, which then forces us to roll in deep onto the dirt, which we saw Dunn run on a couple of times at least. Look at the dust being kicked up. That's all grip being lost, sitting between the tyre and the tarmac, losing grip to those drivers.
That must be the most frustrating thing going into the left-hander there, Vale. You've done a great lap, and it's that downhill braking zone, and it almost invites you in to the corner, but it's all about the exit there.
It's a Venus flytrap. You've done 90% of the lap. This is looking good. What's that shiny thing ahead? Oh, it's P1. I'll just attack this corner. Oh, I've messed it up and I've lost that lap. But it's been a good session for Williams, hasn't it?
It has, 1 and 2. Let's talk through the start, because we're going to practice starts, and it's a quick run down through the first few corners here, isn't it? And opportunities to make positions with it being so fast.
Exactly that. So start imperative with the long run to the first breakpoint, 500 metres down, parking up on the grid box for Luke Browning here. Revs building, not quite on the limiter, then drop 620 horsepower, a lot of wheel spin, too much wheel spin there. Interesting to see, he didn't short shift to second. I thought that might be a way out of the wheel spin, but he just buried his foot through it. He will come back and think what I need to do different, either less revs or slower off the clutch to stop as much wheel spin off the line.
We've seen in Formula 2, it's off the line. You can make positions with that. We've seen drivers go from the second row straight through to the lead. So doing those practice starts, is there stuff you can gain from doing that to help you? I'm sure doing it as a practice, though, is much different when you're lined up on a Grand Prix and the grandstands are full.
Yeah, for sure, the engineers looking on, and those engineers will be helping them afterwards on the data, looking at their start, saying your front wheel speed versus your rear spin. They'll be looking at the G-force pull. They'll know exactly the ultimate G these cars should be pulling under acceleration, and if the driver has achieved that or not.
Yeah, and then you see Sebastian Montoya, he'll pull up. That would feel very different if he was sat on pole. We've seen him qualify very well when those red lights were to go out.
Yes, the pressure does strange things to the body. You can see the wheel spin because the rear tyres are smoking. So again, slightly too much wheel spin. These tyres are older than they would start the race on, so that's something else to factor in. Of course, some drivers may even start on a soft compound tyre. So these are good practice starts, but they're not exactly replicable to what they will be at a race start.
Let's talk through 1 and 2 then when we come through here. Quick run through here, but it will be, you know, tyres that they've only put a lap through, and then into the first braking zone.
Interestingly done backing off there. What I like to do as a driver is, because your entry speed is so different to the first brake because you're from a static start than a rolling run, I like to brake on that point to know, oh, I can brake 14 metres later, for example, on a start.
Yeah, and it's a great first braking zone down there into Village Corner. Well, that's going to be the racing. First, we have to do qualifying. This was practice.
It's Richard Martins, Luke Browning, Jack Crawford, Dino Bogdanovich, Sebastian Montoya, Ollie Goethe, Kushmani, Richard Verschoor, Rita Miata and Roman Stanak. Then further down, Alexander Dunn, Simon Mikatinov, Lindblad, Arvid Lindblad, Leonardo Folorelli, Joshua Durskin, Gabriel Mini, Max Heston, Jose Maria Martin, John Bennett, Emil Cordial, and Clan Shields and Rafael Villagomez at the bottom. We'll be back for the opening practice session of Formula One. That's coming your way at 12:15 British summertime. Join us then for the action. Bye-bye.